Trump has clearly said that the birthright citizenship, he's going to take it off from the people who are going to be born after he takes into power, which is on January 20th, Emily. Where are the rumors that are flying up that it may be applicable for the people who are legally present? Because in all the speeches, he said, we don't want illegal people to come here and have birth, and we don't want to give citizenship to them. He also said to those people who are coming here for tourism, birth tourism, that means that people come here only for the purpose of giving birth to children, he wants to stop that one. He never said anywhere, at least in the election rallies, for those people who are legally present here on work visas, that their children will not be US citizens.
So I think it is coming from some of his advisors that are very anti-immigration and are in his ear with what they think that he should do. You're right. He's made it clear that this would be going forward, not going backwards. He does have it pretty clearly spelled out on the Trump-Vance 2024 agenda that on day one, the plan is to stop granting automatic citizenship to children of undocumented immigrants. They mention that many times, that the purpose of this is to try to stop people from using birthright citizenship as a magnet to come into the country illegally. But the problem is that as part of the directions he plans to give to the federal agencies the day one that he takes office, he's also telling them that he's going to require at least one parent to be either a citizen or a lawful permanent resident for the child who's born in the US to become an automatic US citizen. So it's not just aimed at undocumented immigrants and blocking birth tourism and that sort of thing. It based on that extra statement, it appears that he's wanting this to be expanded much further. At the same time, do you feel that this is something that will actually come to fruition? Do you think he would be able to change the 14th Amendment through an executive order?
We'll get to the technical details later on, Emily. First, I want to get to the bottom of it. What you clearly said is that this is coming from Trump website, which is official website of Trump and Vance, which is a vice president candidate, that they are going to only go forward. That means that they are not going to do denaturalization for the people who already become US citizens, but it's only going forward. And that in that particular website, in the website of Trump and Trump election campaign, it's very clear that on January 20th, when he comes to power, he's going to give an executive order, which is going to cover the undocumented alien children, but not only them. It also covers those people who are legally present here on non-immigrant visas, because if the condition is to be met, if one of the parent is not a US citizen, one of the parent is not a green card holder, the child is not going to become a US citizen according to his directions, the executive order that he's going to issue on January 20th. That is not a good news. Now, the legal challenges for those things, there are some things that we can challenge these things, because what he is using in the 14th Amendment, there is an exception that the U.S. should have the jurisdiction over the jurisdiction. Now, of course, everybody knows that there is an exception to that, that if a person is born to the consulate people, like the ambassador to United States, for example, Indian ambassador to United States, or anybody is ambassador and they are here in United States, they don't come under the jurisdiction of the USA, and their children are not US citizens. It is clearly established principle. What the Trump administration is telling is that these illegal people also, we don't have a jurisdiction because they don't come legally in United States. They are not authorized by the USA. They are not authorized by the CBP. That's the reason why they don't have a jurisdiction. That's why the children of them will not be US citizens, is what their contention is. Now, however, when it comes to the non-immigrant visas, particularly for H-1Bs, they are being under the jurisdiction of USA because their H-1B or H-4, L-1, L-2, F-1, F-2 was being issued by the consulate. And before it's been issued, in the cases of H and L visas, it's been approved by the USCIS, and then they went for the visa. And when they entered into United States, before entering into United States, when they went for the interview, they got the biometrics done. And after that, when they entered into United States, they entered through the port of entry legally, where the Custom and Border Protection Unit has allowed them to come into United States. They've been given authorization by the way of I-94, I-797 to stay in United States. So they do come under the jurisdiction. So there we can fight the legal case saying that, hey, these kids were being, you have the the US government has a jurisdiction, we can fight that case. But we'll have to see, Emily, as you know, things are definitely favoring Trump at this point of time. We don't know how the court is going to act on it. These things were never challenged for a long period of time. Some of the justices that are right now may be in favor of Trump. So we'll have to see. But it seems to be very clear to us at this point of time that on January 20th, in the executive order, he may exclude the children of the people who are on non-immigrant visas like H1, F1, and L1 visas.
Yeah, I would also add that what we saw many times during the first Trump administration is he would make very specific statements about things he intended to do or was going to do, particularly as an example, when he instituted one of the travel bans. I mean, he was saying in the news that we're going to make it so that immigrants cannot come into the U.S. We're blocking immigrants from coming into the U.S. Everyone thought that meant he's going to stop everybody. He's going to shut down the border. No one can get into the U.S. And then when the actual executive order came out, it only impacted immigrant visa applicants applying at the consulates for green cards. It did not impact non-immigrant visa holders. It did not impact advanced parole, people coming in on that. So a lot of people kind of worried that his rhetoric made it sound like it was going to impact everyone, when in actuality, when it finally came out, it was a smaller portion of people. Of course, yes, it was still problematic, and it was still brought before the courts, but just because he's making this statement, even though it's his statement on his website, doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to come out when it does finally come out. So I would just, as usual, we tell you to stay calm, don't make any rash decisions, don't make any plans based on this one statement that he's making on his website. We just have to wait and see what he'll actually issue in the executive order, if he even does. It seems like he probably will, but maybe people who are reviewing his executive order are giving him some guidance about what might be lawful or unlawful in the eyes of the courts. And so it might be adjusted based on what they think they can do.
And Emily, so if it's going to come on 20th, will the effective date will be immediately? Will they give a future date for the people who, especially birthright citizenship, Emily?
If we look at the past, I would expect it to be effective immediately, the same day. So anyone who's not yet born on that day would not get citizenship if he has his way, if this is how it comes out. I don't think that he would make it applicable in the future and give a future date, simply because that could cause a rush of people who happen to be pregnant to come into the US to have their babies so that they can become citizens before this takes effect. I think that they will make it effective immediately. That's my guess. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would assume at least it will be taking immediate effect, Emily. And for those people who have been rumored that it's going to be applicable for going back for the child, were born before, we have never seen Trump saying it. Repeatedly, he said going forward. and any of the Trump campaign on his campaign thing, it's not written anywhere, neither said by Trump at any point of time. Now, however, we have seen this in the advisors of the Trump, with Stephen Miller, who clearly said that we are going to go back and make it applicable for the people who are born before the proclamation. But I would not think that will happen, because one, it's going to be a big legal challenge. It's going to be a big court case. I don't think so. And Trump is not interested in it, at least to mess with the Supreme Court on this particular issue. So I think so he's going to go only forward, not backward. I think so those people who already have children born, you can apply for citizenship. If you want, you can go for the passports right now to be on the safer side. You may apply for if the child is already born, I would recommend that go ahead, apply for the passport immediately, so that you don't take any chance later on, just in case, Emily. We have daily conferences, guys, to address the issues of a lot of panic people are there because Trump is coming out. What's going to happen with the H1B, H4, L1, L2s, and other issues? We are issuing 10 to 20 minutes videos on that, and we do have every Tuesday, we do cover question and answer, where we get interactive questions from you and we do answer one-year sessions. We're doing this for more than 6 years now. You can continue coming for this one. We'd have a daily conference call, which is free for you, where you can come there and ask questions. This conference call will be very useful as people are panicked, and the conference call details is provided at the bottom of this video. Let's go to questions, Emily, unless you have something.
Go ahead.
Is there a ban on people who are traveling in advance parole after Trump comes in? I don't think so. That's on the menu of Trump at this point of time for those people whose 485 is pending. I don't think so. For the advance parole, there is any ban right now. That's not on the menu according to what I see.
Dheeraj says, do you anticipate progression in priority dates in the EB1 category for Indians? I do not. I don't think we'll see much, if any, forward movement until October 2025. And the reason for that is based on the USCIS inventory data that we have for pending 485s, as well as the EB1 I-140 approvals that we have in the pipeline. From my calculations, it looked like they already have enough 485s that they took in to use up all of this year's green cards. And so they won't be able to move the date forward until next year's green cards become available. That's my anticipation. Of course, we always go wrong on these predictions because we don't have all of the data that USCIS and Department of State does, but that's my best guess.
Jehangir Khan is asking, do you think so the new government is going to make it easier for the student graduated in 2024 to get the green card? I don't think so. Even though there was one podcast in that he said that he's going to attach the green card for those people who have attained degrees or associate degrees in the United States, but it is not supported by his cabinet appointees. It is not supported by anything else. After that in the Republican agenda, they did not put forward. And with all what we see is that they're going to make only tougher for people to get the green card, not easier for people to get the green card who have graduated in 2024. Gayatri has this interesting question. Are there any chances for L2 work permit to be scrapped? The L2 work permit is given by the Congress, that means Parliament in the United States. So Trump administration cannot unilaterally cancel it. The way, if he wants to do it, is that he needs to present it in the Congress and he needs to get it passed in Senate and House. He does have enough votes in the House, which is lower house, for the upper house, which is Senate, though. He does have the majority, but there is something called filibuster, which requires 60 votes. He doesn't have the 60 votes at this point of time, unless some of the Democrats will vote in favor of taking the L2 EAD off. But definitely that is not in the short-term menu of Trump administration. It may as well be in the long-term menu of the Trump administration, but it won't be coming in the short term to remove the L2 EADs.
Jahangir says, could the new government impact the TN visa?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes. So when they negotiated the USMCA, they included a provision that requires it to be reviewed in 2026. I believe that's in March 2026. So all three governments are basically going to have to come back to the negotiating table to decide whether they want to proceed with the USMCA as is or make changes to it. And I can expect that the Trump administration may, try to hold Mexico's feet to the fire about the southern border in an effort to try to make some changes in the USMCA that he thinks would be beneficial to the US. So yeah, the TN is definitely up for review in 2026.
Rakesh has this question that his child is going to be born on February 9th. What will be the chances for the kid to get the US citizenship? We don't know. I mean, you have to keep watch on the January 20th executive order when he's going to issue it. Based on that, we can tell. And if the executive order comes negative, though, of course, there'll be legal challenges for it, which you will have to keep watching on the legal challenges, though.
Another question similar from Complex Cat. My child was born this month. Would this rule apply if my child doesn't receive the passport by the time the Trump administration issues an executive order? I don't think so. So having the passport alone is not going to determine whether your child is considered a US citizen or not under today's laws. So from the time your child was born, the law is that they're born in the US, therefore they are a US citizen and they can get the passport, but the passport is not mandatory for them to prove that they are a US citizen. So I don't think you should be harmed by not getting it in time. We're just recommending to, if you haven't already applied for one for a child that was born here recently, go ahead and apply for it just so that you have it in the event something unexpected happens.
People are asking questions with regards to there's a surge in the family-based visa applications. This is coming from Gina. Do you see any impact on the employment-based green card, though? There are things that in the family-based immigration, there are two things. One that count towards the number, one set of things that doesn't count towards the number. For example, the parents of the parents of the US citizens, the children under 21, unmarried, and the spouse of the US citizen, they don't count under the visa numbers, though. So that definitely does not affect the employment-based immigration. For the rest of the things, it's just, the waiting list is already there. The processing time is there. Even though if there is a surge in the applications, the government can only process a certain number of the family-based immigration. However, can we see a slowdown in the family immigration? Yes, based on how the Trump administration acts. If they slow down on the family immigration, though, there is a chance some of those things may fall into the employment-based green cards. Now we have to see at that point of time, will he give up? Will he use the entire employment-based green card, or will he waste some of the green cards? That part we don't know. But I'm not expecting any miracles to happen. I don't expect very big number of family-based green cards to drop into the employment-based. As people already know that if there are any unused family-based immigration green cards that are already been allocated, that will come to the employment-based in the next year. But I'm not looking forward for it. I don't think so it will come either.
Caroline says, I applied for the H4 and H4 EAD with a start date of March 2025. Do you think the new administration might cancel the EAD for H4s? And if yes, will that affect ongoing applications or existing H4 EAD holders? We do expect that the Trump administration might try to cancel the H4 EAD. He did propose or plan to propose a regulation to eliminate it before. That proposal was never published. It never became in the Federal Register to actually have people comment on it. So it didn't go through the regulatory process, but it was the intention for them to eliminate the H4 EAD based on it appearing in the unified agenda. Now, if he's going to do that again, it does have to go through the regulatory process because the H4 EAD was created through the regulatory process. That means he's got to go through issuing a proposed regulation, giving people a chance to comment on it. That usually takes 60 days, reviewing those comments, deciding what to do with the final regulation, publishing the final regulation that it includes explanations of why they chose to continue the way they did, and then an effective start date of the regulation. All of that takes time. I think it's pretty likely that it's going to take at least a year. I mean, even to create the H4 EAD, it was about a 5-year regulatory process. So it's not going to go away instantly. It is something that they have to propose first. And then if they do ultimately get rid of it, I anticipate that based on what he's done in other situations like DACA, it would only affect the future applications. So pending applications or people who already have the H4 EAD should not be impacted, but you may not be able to file your renewal. So the next one you may not be able to file.
Emily, I want to discuss about this particular question, particularly by Suresh Shan. Will there be an impact on naturalization? Of course, naturalization is a legislative process. The Trump administration cannot interfere very much into it. But however, you know that he can delay the naturalization process. He can put some impediments into the naturalization process, maybe increase the amount of questions that they're asking, and then he may put some impediments to it, that thing. Now, I'm thinking of two things that he could do. Emily, one thing is that he can put some impediments, making it more harder for people to get the citizenship, naturalization. But then we have this Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy who wants to cut the bureaucracy. And they want to eliminate a lot of jobs and make it easier, cut down the regulations. And they're right now sharpening their axes to cut down the bureaucracies. That's how they're sounding to me right now. What do you think so, for especially naturalization? They were going to put a block on it, or they're going to make it more easier and faster to get the things?
Although I think they are tasked with making government agencies more efficient, I don't think that will translate to faster naturalization or easier naturalization. I think given the anti-immigration stance, it's likely they're going to try to increase the cost of applying for naturalization. Given that they want extreme vetting for everything, I think they are going to have to look into everything in more detail, which is, of course, going to delay approvals and make everything take longer. I think they are going to ask or want to ask a lot more questions, getting into people's social media and things like that, like they already do at the consulates. So yeah, I don't have good hopes that the naturalization process would get better under Trump, even with the Department of Government Efficiency helping.
We do understand that the Trump administration want to eliminate some of the departments, merge some of the departments, want to trim most of the departments. But when it comes to the immigration, though, he has not given any hint that they want to trim it. He has not given any intimation, because this is more fees driven, especially USCIS that operates the nationalization process is a fees driven, which is that customers are paying the fees. And in this particular thing, the Trump administration don't want to slim or make it easier for us to get the things done, in which I definitely agree with Emily on that.
Ramjan says, can an EAD applicant work on the initial receipt when they applied for the first time? No, only certain EAD renewals get an automatic extension, but a pending EAD does not provide work authorization while it's pending.
Anuj Singh is asking, will there be any secondary processing when you come into United States if you're on advanced parole in the coming administration? Anuj, I don't think so that will happen. At the most, people can be taken to the secondary thing for about 10 to 15 minutes, which we see in some of the airports. I'm not expecting it though. Now, there are some things that we are expecting it. There are some things we are not expecting it. We are not expecting it any trouble for the advanced parole, but we keep tuned to our videos every Tuesday, at least for, you probably need to spend previously, we used to say that spend at least 20 minutes with us every week, but now we say that you might have to spend almost an hour a week so that you keep updated on what's going on. And we will keep updating you. Right now, we are not expecting any problem at all for the advanced parole people whose 485 is pending.
Swati says my H-1B is valid until August 2025. Can I apply for the extension now in November 2024, or is it too early? Definitely getting this question a lot as people are concerned that there may be more restrictions, more difficulty in getting H-1B renewals with the Trump administration. So you're right that it's too early to file an extension. You can only file 180 days before the expiration date. So probably February 2025, based on an August 2025 end date. However, there's a way to file an extension early, and that's by filing an amendment plus an extension. It does require your employer to be willing to do that since they have to file it. It's filed exactly like an extension, except there's one extra box that's checked for an amendment to change something about the petition that was previously approved, plus extend it for 3 years from November 2024. So you would be cutting off, instead of getting an extension to August 2028, you would only get an extension to November 2027. So it kind of works both ways, because obviously the Trump administration is still going to be there when it's time to file the next time. So it may not be worth it to file the extension early right now.
Political asylum, that's the question that is asking, is that will the people who are on political asylum, will they grant citizenship for their children? I definitely think so. The answer is no. They may not be, because that's on the menu to be eliminated though. In fact, they're going to make it very hard for the political asylum though. Emily, what about the extra fees that we are paying for the political asylum right now? This was imposed by the Trump on H-1Bs, that we have to pay extra fees because Biden administration, sorry, not Trump administration, Biden administration wants to give political asylum, and the cost of that he was recovering for H-1Bs.
Yeah, I don't know where that money's going because the number of asylum cases pending just continues to grow. It doesn't seem like they're moving through any of those any faster. They haven't increased the number of judges. I don't know what they're doing with that money. I don't think
Trump is very clear on political asylum. He just want to take it off. I don't know how he's going to take it out, but he just want to take it off. Will we stop paying the money for the political asylum?
No, I don't think so. They'll keep taking the money for sure. He'll try to use it to build a wall, I guess.
There will be some changes with regards to Trump wants to eliminate the lottery system, where approximately around 80,000 people get the green card in lottery, which that 140,000 people get the green card in the employment based, but 80,000 people get in the lottery system, which mostly Indians are not eligible for. He intend to eliminate it. He also wants to eliminate the family-based immigration, including the parents and also brothers and sisters. So for taking the lottery system off, taking the family-based, any of those things though, he has to go through the Congress. That means he has to go to the lower house and upper house. It may take a little bit time for it. So Emily, what do you suggest? If parents are on the limbo, should they apply for the green card right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. But if somebody was thinking that, okay, I don't know whether my parents want the green card or not, and you are in a limbo, probably it's time for you to apply for the green card for the parents, because yes, Trump administration may take that provision off, where the US citizen kids who are above 21 can apply for the parents. He may take it off, but of course that has to go to the Congress. We don't know how Congress is going to act on it.
Vitaly says, do you expect movement in the EB3 rest of world category in January? I think there'll be some, maybe a few weeks to a few months. maximum. I think we're going to see some movement between now and the end of the year, but not enough to make it current or near current. So it will still be backlogged. Wesley says, did USCIS release the spillover family-based numbers for 2025? No, I've not seen that anywhere. Usually it comes at the bottom of the visa bulletin. So maybe we'll see that when the next visa bulletin comes out.
What about the EAD in advance parole? Right now they're approving for 5 years. Would that continue?
Yeah, I think that's at risk of being eliminated. I don't think they can eliminate the EAD and AP itself, but I could definitely see them reducing that back to 1 to 2 year validity instead of the 5 years.
Yeah, that's going to be very horrible if they do it, Emily. Hopefully, so that if they go with Elon Musk, and they should reduce the bureaucracy in that way, they should get EADs and advance parole for 5 years. But I'm not sure if they're going to go through the continue with the 5 years EAD and AP.
Yeah.
Question that is coming from my cousin has come on a B2 visa, converted into F1 visa. Is it advisable for them to go to Mexico for stamping, though? For those people in general, the people who have come on a B2 converted into H1B, though, I'm sorry, converted into F1, come into the United States on B1 or B2, convert to F1, if they go for stamping, their chances of getting stamping will be very less. Whether it's Mexico, whether it's Canada, or whether it's India, the home country where they belong to, either way, they're going to have a tough time in getting the visa stamping because they change the status in the United States.
Vihari says, my perm prevailing wage determination is in process. Will that be affected in the next administration? I'm going to say most likely no, because any change to prevailing wage calculations is likely going to need to go through a regulation. We've been through this before. The Trump administration did try to change how prevailing wages were calculated. They successfully implemented new prevailing wages, and those were used to issue prevailing wages for anything that was pending at that time. So it was not applied to only new prevailing wage determination forms going forward. It was applied kind of retroactively to those that were already pending and in process. However, in your case, because yours is already in process, it's likely yours is going to be issued before any kind of final regulation could come out that would change how the prevailing wages are done. So for you, I think the biggest risk is just delay in getting the prevailing wages, because that's been taking longer and longer, but that's been even under the Biden administration.
Ritesh is having the question that it's been more than 12 months his AP is pending. He did make some inquiries to expedite it, but they didn't expedite it. He has some further medical procedure for the other. The only thing that I can suggest you to do is to file a court case, but I would say that it'll take at least 70 days to get any response. Getting anything faster through court case is not likely. If you do want to, you can contact Stephen Brown, who is our partner in our office, and then you can discuss with him how long it takes and what are the costs involved in it, though.
Narendra says he has an H-1B and H-4 stamped to March 2026, has the I-140 that was approved, I'm guessing in June 2022. H-4 EAD was recently applied and is looking to change jobs. Wants to know, can the employer withdraw or revoke the I-140? What happens to the H-4 EAD that's pending? Should I change now or wait? So because your I-140 has been approved for more than 180 days, if you change jobs now, yes, the employer can still withdraw the approved I-140, but that I-140 still remains valid for you to use it for H-1B extensions with any company, and for your spouse to use it to get the H-4 EAD. So because you've crossed that 180-day mark, you could change employers now. And the employer withdrawing your approved I-140 won't have any impact on your H-1B, your H-4 EAD, or your priority date. But it does mean when your date is coming current and you are ready to file the 485, you're going to need to have a new I-140 in place with whatever employer you're with at that time.
Chaprala Shivaji has this question. He's getting laid off in December. He's asking his spouse is on H1B. He's asking which one is better. Is it H4 or B1? The spouse has already filed for the H1 extension in August. What is the best options for him? Either file for the H4 or B1, B2. Absolutely, between B1, B2 and H4, the option is H4. Clearly, no doubt in it, because H4 has all the advantages of B2 plus extra advantages. So between H4 and B2 or B1, it is undoubtedly H4 application that you can apply. Now, a lot of people ask the question, hey, if I file the H4 application while the H4 is pending, can I apply for a change of status if to H1B if I get a job? Yes, we have done it so many times. I had no problem getting the H1B approval when the H4 is pending now. I don't know if the USCIS is going to reverse its opinion on it, but right now we are good in that thing.
Vika says, I got laid off in January with my last payroll in the last week of January 2024. The employer has withdrawn the H-1B in April 2024, have not filed a change of status to B1, B2. I-94 is valid till 2026. Should I go back or keep looking for jobs? I would definitely recommend that you consult with a qualified immigration attorney before taking any action so that you can understand what the issues are for your continued stay in the U.S. and what your outlook is for being able to get back to the U.S. in the future in this situation. And I definitely don't recommend taking this action for anyone else who's in that situation. If you're getting to the end of your 60-day grace period, file a change of status to B1, B2, or H4 if that's an option. It should not, don't do nothing. Definitely need to take action if you're in that situation.
Question with regards to whether or not there will be any impediments coming on the way process for the POM applications and I-140. This question is coming. I can't see any impediments on the POM, at least on the menu. But I can see some impediments on the I-140 by not offering the premium processing for the I-140. They can take the premium processing off. That probably might be on their menu. That was there before. That was there before when they suspended the premium processing for the I-140 for a certain period of time. So that can come in. And this question is coming from Mudit Jain. That it takes more than 2 weeks to reply, more than 2 weeks to get it. It's been more than 2 weeks that he filed the EB2 and IW in premium processing. Does it mean RFE likely? I don't think so. That by itself is there. I would recommend to wait for 1 more week, 3 weeks, wait for it before you can conclude anything. 3 weeks is a normal time. I recommend people to wait 3 weeks. Those people who are contemplating and filing an EB1C, EB1A, EB1B, and NIW, I would recommend strongly to expedite and start filing those things right now because the premium processing is there. Because what we have noticed in especially some EB1Cs, though, it was taking almost 1.5 to 2 years to get the decision on the EB1Cs. And people ask the question, hey, I'm filing it too fast. What happens if I get a denial from any of those things? If you get a denial, you still can file it again. It doesn't prohibit you from filing it again when you get a denial. So definitely, I strongly recommend that to file before the administration takes an action of canceling the premium processing, which we may be expecting in because we have seen that before. Trump 1 had a problem with it. So you may want to take action right now.
Streeter says, I have an approved H-1B with a valid visa stamp. Can I apply for an H-4 visa based on my spouse's H-1B, travel to the U.S. on it, and then switch back to H-1B after 2 months? Yes, absolutely. You can apply for the H-4 at the consulate using your spouse's approved H-1B. Once you're in the U.S., because you previously had an H-1B and you've been counted in the cap, you are exempt from the cap. You don't have to go through the lottery anymore. So as long as you've not used up your 6-year limit of H-1B time, or if you have an approved I-140, you can switch back to H-1B at any time.
Okay. Any people who have a DUI, definitely we strongly recommend that you consult an immigration lawyer. To consult, though, this administration may make it very hard for the people who have a DUI. At this point of time, the impediment for those people who have DUI when they go for stamping, even if the case is dismissed, though, is that you will have to submit yourself to the medical examination, and after that, and medical and psychological evaluation. After that, I see everybody getting the visa stamping, though. But with the new administration coming, we don't know what their stance is, if they would make any changes to those things. There is a legislation which was passed in the House, which is not presented in the Senate with regards to the DUI, where initially they said it's going to be only applicable for the illegal aliens. But when we looked into the law, I think it's passed in the House or Senate, I forgot it, where they say that all those people will be deported and they will not be allowed to come into the United States. It's only passed in one house. I don't know whether it's the House of Representatives or Senate, but it's not passed in the other house. But yeah, things are turning anti-immigration. There is a possibility that it may be taken up again in this Congress, that is after January 20th, and it can get passed and get into complicated. Even if it doesn't get passed through the Parliament or Congress, there is a possibility this administration might take a harder look into the people who have a DUI, especially when they go for stamping.
Prashant says, can we apply for an H4 EAD in premium and get it approved before January 20th? Kind of. So the H4 EAD, when it's filed by itself, there is no premium processing for it. The same for if you're filing an H4 and an H4 EAD together, there's no premium processing for that. How can you get it approved in premium processing then? If your spouse is applying for an H-1B extension in premium, you can add in your H4 and H4 EAD and get those approved in premium, all three together. What if your spouse's H-1B doesn't need to be extended right now? You could still potentially do it if the spouse's employer is willing to file an amendment plus extension. This would be a completely unnecessary filing from the employer's standpoint. But if they're willing to do it, it would allow you to file the early H4 extension as an amendment, add in the H4 and the H4 EAD and premium, get them all approved together before January of 2025, sorry.
For those people whose I-140 is approved, the question that comes from money and also the question that is coming from Heldrum is that once the I-140 is approved and the 485 is pending, what are the impediments? Can the administration do any steps to make it harder, though? One, they can make it mandatory for all the 485 applications to be interviewed. That is going to delay the 485 application by a lot. We don't know what other impediments that they could bring if the I-140s are approved and priority date is still waiting. We don't know. These are some of the things what we have seen, that 485 has been delayed when the Trump administration was there. That's one thing that we can see, that they may put a mandatory 485 interview is one thing that we can see.
Yashwant says, my I-94 and visa expire in March 2025, but my H-1B is valid until February 2026. Can I continue to work after March 2025? Short answer, it depends on how you ended up with these different dates. So let's say that you have your H-1B visa stamp valid till March 2025. You entered the US using that visa, got your I-94 to March 2025, but then you filed an H-1B transfer with USCIS and they issued you an I-94 on that I-797 approval notice that's valid till March 2026. In that case, yes, you can keep working till February 2026. The most recently issued I-94 is the one that was issued by USCIS and it's valid till 2026, so you can use that. So note that when you file an extension after you've entered the country with USCIS, they don't update your online I-94. So your online I-94 might still say March 2025, but you're going to get an I-797 approval notice that says February 2026. You go by the most recently issued I-94 from USCIS. Let's say the opposite happens. Maybe you filed a transfer and you got the transfer approved till February 2026, but then you traveled and used your old employer's visa that's expiring in March 2025 to come back into the country, which you absolutely can do. But you did not show your approval notice, it's till 2026 to CBP, and they gave you the I-94 only till 2025. In that case, you cannot work beyond 2025. That's the most recent I-94. Most commonly, what happens is if your passport is expiring before your I-797 approval expires, in that time, you often get a shortened I-94 at the port of entry. I mean, you do need to take action before that I-94 expires. So definitely check that and figure out which of those categories you fall under to understand whether you need to take action before March 2025.
Adrian Bruno has this question. He's an MBA and career coach, and he's saying that Trump's statement on giving foreign college graduates green card right away. What do you think about it? Absolutely, I don't think so. He's on the mood for it. I don't know in that particular moment how he said it. He did not back it off. He did not have any support. His cabinet picking, none of those people who he picked are in favor of those things, have expressed anything about that, except in that particular podcast where he said that should be attached. He said should be attached. So I don't think so. He's going to pursue that option. Don't hope that thing at all.
Astro says, if I have an H-1B from company A, but company B acquired company A, can I travel with company A's H-1B and company B's offer letter? Maybe. So if company B is considered a successor in interest to company A because they have acquired the company and agreed to take on all of the H-1B LCA obligations, then yes, you can travel with that H-1B, even though the company has changed. We do generally give our clients a letter explaining the successor and interest relationship for them to carry, especially if they're going for visa stamping or for them to show at the port of entry to avoid any issues there.
Premium processing for the I-129, can it be filed by my employer or can I file by myself? This question comes from Vinay Sharma. The answer is only employer can file for the I-129 premium processing. You as an employee for H-1Bs and L-1s cannot file a premium processing by yourself. Do you think merit-based immigration system is going to get passed in Trump administration? Very good question, Emily. What do you think? Merit-based immigration.
Potentially. I expect there to be some bills to try to change our immigration system, whether that's for the better or for the worse. We might see some comprehensive reform bills that tend to have some sort of merit-based approach to it. I think it all depends on how these things are proposed, what else is included, if it comes with a lot of enforcement and border security things that they may not be able to get 60 votes in the Senate because they are going to need some Democrats to be on board with it. So that's what makes it difficult. It's got to, any kind of reform to actually pass has to be done in a true bipartisan, reach across the aisle and get people to compromise form. And I don't think Trump is one for negotiating those kind of things very well. He tends to talk down to people and berate them and not get a lot of people to be on board with his plans. So that might derail any kind of chance for immigration reform in Congress.
You know, when the Congress was a little bit more favorable, I mean, even if they are the opponent parties, though, we see them working together, especially Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton. Even though they're the opposite side, they did work well. Their language to each other was very good. And they were unable to get the comprehensive legislation. When Bush was there, we see Bush and Nancy Pelosi were fine. I mean, they didn't add any bad words to each other. Of course, they disagreed with their things, yet they were unable to get the things rolled out. Same thing with Obama, and Obama could not get things out. So in this atmosphere where Trump, how he speaks about his opponents or the other political parties, it's very hard to conceive that there will be a compromise between the Republicans and Democrats, especially on the immigration, though, which requires 60 votes in the Senate. The only exception that I can think about is that if they take the filibuster off, they can pass many legislations without any problem. Do you think that they will take the filibuster off, Emily? Now, let me explain what filibuster is for the people. Is that it's a rule made by the senators by themselves in the Senate, where there are 100 senators. But if there is any bill where finance is not involved, money is not involved, the senators can put an objection to it. We call it as filibuster. Then it has to be passed by 60 votes instead of 51 votes. That's called filibuster, though. Until now, the Republicans and the Democrats have been following, even when they have the 51 votes, they didn't violated the filibuster rule. What do you think the Trump administration is going to do?
I don't see them eliminating the filibuster. I think over the years, it's generally been the Democrats that were wanting to eliminate it because it was typically the Republicans that were using the filibuster to block any kind of necessary legislation. And the Republicans want to keep the filibuster because they can use it to block any kind of legislation. And they also are aware that if they eliminate it, it cuts both ways. When Democrats are in power, it makes it easier for them to pass legislation. So even though the Republicans are in power now, and it might help them to pass things more easily if they eliminate it, I think they're aware of more of the long-term consequences of that to their party and may not be willing to do it. Sam says, are there any issues that we should be aware of if we have our GC EAD approved and are waiting for the green card? We don't see any plans to eliminate the EAD for people with a pending 485. I think the biggest issue to be aware of is the timing and possible more fees and possible reduction in the length of the next EAD approval. So the 5-year EADs could go away and become just 1 or 2 year EADs. Processing times may get really bad again to where 180-day automatic extension is not long enough. I think there's a regulation about to be published to make the 540-day auto renewal permanent. So hopefully that will happen so that you'll be protected for 540 days in the event of long processing times. Those are probably the biggest things. So I would watch the processing times and apply for your renewal early if you see those processing times taking longer than usual.
Chris has this question, and this happens with a lot of people. H1, H4, and EAD have been filed together. H1 receipt notice comes from a different service center number, which either IOE or something like that. H4 and EAD might come with SRC. Why is it that it's been sent to two different service centers? And it's perfectly all right if they send it to two different centers. But if you file H1 and H4 and EAD together, if they don't get approved together, though, you can contact our office, and then we can contact the USCIS and get it approved, because they are supposed to approve based on the agreement between the ALA, Immigration Lawyers Association, and the court case against USCIS. Now, however, that particular court case, the agreement was only that until January of 2025, if the H1 and H4 in EAD were being filed together, that they will be approved together. After January, they are not bound by any of the court agreement, though. So if it is before that, you can contact us and we can get the H1 and H4 EAD approved if the H1 is already approved. What do you think that will happen to the H1, H4 and EAD filed together? Previous administration did not approve them together. They not only did not approve them, they put a biometrics for the people who already gave the biometrics before when they entered the United States, and they started biometrics for even 2-year-old kids who just came from from their home country.
Yeah, the settlement agreement expires in January. I don't have high hopes that it will be extended. I think USCIS agreed that it is easier for officers and easier on them to keep everything together. But I also think that if the Trump administration could bring back the biometrics and cause everything to be separated again. So I'm not looking forward to how they're going to process the H4s and H4 EADs going forward.
Question from Abhinav is that his 485 has been pending for more than 6 months. He got a great offer and he filed the 485 and EB1C. Can he change the job? Will the new administration in the new administration, will there be any risk? We don't anticipate that, though. I don't think so. That is on the menu. That is AC 21 law passed by the Congress, which in the Parliament we call here as Congress, and we don't see that it's a problem as long as your I-140 is approved and it's been more than 6 months that you filed the 485. And the new job is in a similar occupation to that of the old job that you have. We don't see that happening now. The new company doesn't need to have a relationship with the company that you worked outside the country. They don't need to be related companies. Still, you should not have any problem.
One last question. A couple of people are asking about the upcoming H-1B lottery, and can the president change that process so that it goes based on salary? Can that be done by executive order? Is it possible to do that for next lottery? I don't think it can be done by executive order. Everything related to how the lottery is conducted is through regulation. And so to change it, it does have to go through the regulatory process. So is it possible that regulation could be proposed to change the lottery and do it by salary? Yeah. I don't think it would be for this year's lottery. I don't think there's enough time from January 20th to March 15th for them to propose a regulation, finalize it, and have it take effect, unless they miraculously do some sort of interim final rule, which requires there to be some emergency extraordinary circumstance why they can't go through the normal notice and comment. So I think that's pretty unlikely for the 2025 lottery.
TN visas, are they in danger? Well, it depends on whether you're from Canada or Mexico. Yeah, definitely. They are on the menu too of the Trump administration. They are on the menu too. Because TN involves both Mexico and Canada, and I don't think so. This guy is a big fan of Mexico, so we don't know what this guy is going to do.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Please remember to come back every Tuesday so we can give you all of the updates, let you know what's happening, and help you decide any actions you need to take based on what the Trump administration has in store for us. And we'll keep you posted as usual.
And we do have a daily conference, Zoom conference, where you can attend for free. It's 30 minutes. You can go to our website at rnlawgroup.com and please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you want to speak with me, my colleague, or my partners, or any of my colleagues, or Emily, we do have our schedule available online. You can block time that is suitable to you so that we can discuss